Right now to a huge story we broke for you less than 24 hours ago, right here on Sky Sports Fan Club. Crystal Palace's appeal to play in the Europa League was rejected. Their demotion to the Conference League was confirmed by the Court of Arbitration for Sport. Nottingham Forest will play in the Europa League at their expense. We can speak live to Palace fan Jack Allen and Forest fan George Edwards. OK, both. Jack, I think it's only fair we start with you. What's your reaction to yesterday's decision? And has it deflated you ahead of the new season?
Hi, and thank you for having me on, obviously. And you know what? It has, but it hasn't. I mean, this has got to be the best summer of Palace's life. 119 years, never won a trophy. We won 2 within 3 months. When we look at it, we've only rightly deserved our space in the Europa League. For us to lose it for something where John Textor has nothing to do with the club anymore. It has deflated it a little bit, but the main thing is now is the money side of things. The £20 million we've now lost due to this. And obviously going forward, it means players are going to be on their way out as well, which obviously is going to be a massive concern for us fans. Yeah,
and George, obviously, Palace's you're gaining, from Palace's misery here, but do you have much sympathy for Jack and the Palace fans?
Morning, guys. Yeah, I think we have to, because you think if Forest were in that position, and we could quite easily have been, because we were in a position where Champions League football could have been on the cards, and we were unsure whether we would get in there with Olympiacos. Obviously, Marinakis owns us and Olympiacos, but Forest did mitigating circumstances. They took Marinakis out of control of the club sort of legally and made sure they were okay in that regard. So, yeah, we have sympathy for them. And if we were in that position, I think all of us would be, feeling bad for ourselves. But we've got to take it, we're Nottingham Forest. We're a club that's been in Europe before, and we've got a history in European competition. So we've got to accept this decision and look forward to Europe in a different regard. I mean, I'm quite annoyed. I had a final booked in Leipzig, accommodation booked in Leipzig, and I have to cancel that for Istanbul now.
Yeah, I don't think there's too much sympathy with you for that one, George. But, Jack, you mentioned about the financial situation. At this stage, are you and the Crystal Palace fans almost expecting to lose at least one of, if not both, Ebere Eze and Mark Gahey?
Do you know what? I think it's going to look worse than that. I think Eze and Guy are definitely going to be 2 names flittering about other clubs. But I also see Oliver Glasner. At the moment, Steve Parish hasn't really backed him with only signing 2 players. I do believe and hopefully he does bring in some more faces. But Oliver Glasner had this same situation last year, and we had a bad start to the season due to the fact of not bringing people in. We didn't have a full squad altogether in pre-season. And now when we're looking at the start of this season, it looks like the same situation is going to happen again. Wembley Stadium tried to silence the Palace fans from doing protests and bits like that. The Homesdale boys did manage to obviously get some banners into the stadium. So we're making sure, obviously, our voices are heard. But the main consideration is, with all of this, is the big 6 teams. If it happened to one of them, you would never see them in this situation. We saw Man United and Nice playing in the same tournament. We've seen both RB Red Bull teams in 2018 playing in the same tournament, actually getting drawn in the same league as well. So we've seen it many times before that multi-club ownership has been there. But John Textor has nothing to do with Palace or Lyon anymore. And yet we still get punished for the situation.
George, from Nottingham Forest fans' perspective, you and your friends, is there any sort of embarrassment there? Because, of course, you were not that far away from qualifying for the Champions League at one stage. It looked like you were going to make it, and then you fell out of the Europa League place as well, but still managed to get back up there because of this technicality.
I don't think there's embarrassment because, it's football, it's life. We've got to accept what comes our way. And obviously it is Crystal Palace's loss, but it's our game. So we can't be embarrassed. We finished 7th. We earned our right to finish 7th, and we were the team to take it. So as much as, we've got to take the decision, we can't be embarrassed by it. We've got to embrace it. And maybe Conference League football might have suited us better because it's our first year back in Europe in 30 years. And we saw Chelsea didn't even have Cole Palmer in the squad and managed to win it in the first half of the season. So it might have suited Forest better to adapt to Europe in the Conference League. But now we're in the Europa League, we're not going to look back, and we're going to enjoy every minute of taking on some of Europe's best teams.
Jack, from your point of view, is there any animosity between the 2 clubs because of this?
Look, it's hard to say. Obviously, for me personally, it's one of them situations where we're hearing stories that the Forest chairman was getting involved, and we got told very clearly that this situation wouldn't have happened if other club didn't want to go into our place. So Nottingham Forest could potentially be involved. But also as well, when you look at it as well with Lyon, Lyon were going to get relegated at the start of this season. Then they fought that back. Then suddenly they're now in Europe again. We deserve our place over Lyon, I would say, as well. So it's one of them situations where we've learned it by winning the FA Cup, which we never thought we would do. We weren't even in Europe in March 31st when the deadline passed anyway. So as a chairman, but also as well, Steve Parish can never decide for John Textor to put his shares into a blind trust. So it is out of our hands and out of the other three owners' hands to do so. And you can't put your shares in a blind trust if you're trying to sell your shares anyway. So it's a very difficult situation for us to be in as a club, and as a fan base, we would have to sit and watch this all fold out, really.
Yeah, it has been a difficult situation, no doubt. George, we know what football fans are like. We're all football fans. Can you see in 12 days' time Palace v Forest at Selhurst Park? Can you see you and your fans taunting Palace for this?
Yes, it will probably happen, won't it? I've already seen some chants going around on Twitter that people are preparing for it. You know, football, that's what football's like. That's what football fans are like. You know, we're tribal and we like to, you know, take advantage of other people's losses. And Forest have won in this situation. I think it's quite unfortunate as well, because if it wasn't for this situation, Forest and Palace are so similar. Our fan bases, you know, we've not been in Europe. I think Palace forever, Forest for so long. We're both sticking it to sort of the bigger teams in the Premier League. We've got into Europe for the first time. Palace have won a trophy. We all want to be celebrating that. So it is a bit of a shame that, you know, there's a bit of animosity there and it's been clouded by it. But you can probably expect some taunts from the Forest fans in the away end. So prepared for that, I'd say.
Well, OK, Jack, I think you probably are prepared for that. In terms of this season with Crystal Palace, how good can it be? What's your realistic aims this season? You know, who knows? You could even top last season.
Well, when you look at this season now, 2 trophies. I mean, we've beaten 2 of the best teams in the world as such at the moment with Man City and Liverpool. Looking at the Conference League now, we've got to kind of look forward to it. At the end of the day, we've got a good squad, we've got a good group of players. We need to back the manager and hopefully push on to win the Conference League and get Europe next season. But like I say, how amazing would that be that if we beat the teams in the Conference League and we do qualify for Europe next season? I wonder what UEFA is going to rule in. Are they going to try and stop us from getting through a next year for another reason or another rule they're going to make up along the way? But who knows? Hopefully we can have a good summer and celebrate at the end of next season.
And George, have you got one final, maybe even a good luck message for Jack and Palace this season?
No, I do hope Palace do well. And I don't think UEFA are out to get Crystal Palace. I think they've just got their guidelines, and that, you know, if they didn't carry out their rules to the rule of the book, then people would just do it. I know it's a bit dodgy how clubs have managed to skirt it, but Forest managed to skirt it if we were in the Champions League. So I know it's easy for me to say I'm not involved in it. But no, we do wish Crystal Palace the best of luck. And, you know, we won't be lifting the Europa League and Palace the Conference League now. Who knows?
That would be a good season. All right, lads, thank you. Good luck.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Jay, from a player's point of view, could this derail Palace's season, or certainly the start of the season?
Yeah, I've got a lot of sympathy for Palace. They had a great season last year, and because of this now, I think we're going to see players leave. I mean, it's always been on the cards with Gay and Eze, but definitely now there's no European football. I think they're going to be leaving, and then Glasner, he's going to be fuming, because I think when you're playing in Europe, you can attract more players, and now that's not going to happen. So it's a really tough situation for Palace.